join tech, join ad tech, do my own startup, tiny little company, not a big success, get sold to Twitter. I end up at Facebook a year before the IPO as one of the early members of the ads team. So if you go like browse for shit on the internet and you see that same pair of shoes inside your Instagram feed or whatever, I created the very first versions, initial, not what's there now, versions of that. So I was the first like product manager for ads targeting. So like how user data gets turned into a successful ads campaign is what I was responsible for in a very formative period in the company's history. And so I was there, again, not that terribly long, but a lot happened. The company grew in size enormously and figured out how to make money. Like, I didn't know how to fucking make money. The ads, as everyone remembers, used to suck. And now everyone's like, ads are either creepy or crappy. There's no in between. So I went from crappy to creepy. It was a big team. A lot of people did stuff to make that happen. So the book is about that. Like, how do you start a company? How do you raise money? The inner workings of Silicon Valley. I went through this famous incubator thing called Y Combinator.
When you say crappy to creepy, do you mean invasive?
Yeah. In the sense of like, oh, this is like totally irrelevant to like, oh, I was literally just searching for this thing and here's an ad for it.
Let me ask you about this because we've talked about this multiple times on the podcast. Sometimes you're having a conversation about something. Oh, God,
the microphone thing.
Is that real?
No.
It's not real.
No. I mean...
I don't believe him. Do you believe him?
No. We were just talking about something the other day. I haven't searched for it at all.
Okay.
And I got an ad for it. It's something me and you were talking about.
What was it?
If I remember right, I couldn't remember, but it was something we were talking about after the show. 6 hours later, I'm getting an ad for it.
Here's what I'd bet on. One of you two either searched or went to some website. Not only
one of us.
What?
So if I do, he gets an ad?
Potentially. Yeah.
How?
The term of art is called lookalike audiences. What that means is, so some retailer knows that you dump a bunch of money at whatever, REI, Cabela's, pick your favorite retailer, whatever. You two are buds and you interact a lot on whatever social media platform. If I'm Cabela's, say, just a cited example, I'm like, okay, I know this guy is worth whatever, $2,000 a year. Get me more people like him. And companies like Facebook or other companies can say, aha, well, guess what? He talks to this dude a lot, who, by the way, whose profile kind of looks like yours. And so you'll get targeted for something that you did. Yeah.
I get that, but we have very different online things. You know, I looked at sneakers and stuff. He's looking at hunting and whatnot. The thing that came up, I wish I could. I normally take a screenshot when these things happen because I'll share it with the person.
Yeah.
Like, look what just popped up on my phone. This was outside of that.
Yeah.
This is one of those things where I go, all right, we need to talk about this. But again, I know there's
okay, so let me
defenses to it, but this was.
Let me address the question. It's funny. There was a Planet Money show about this in which they talked to various people who had this experience to try to figure out how it actually happened. I was a guest on it, but let me address the problem. So, imagine. Let's say Mark Zuckerberg is listening to your conversations and gets like a live stream of your phone all the time. What fraction of the time do you think you're actually mentioning something commercially interesting that would be worth like targeting against? Like, how often do you say, hey, I'm flying to Boston next week and I need a flight and a hotel and a taxi? And you say it in some structured way that would be easy. It's pretty rare, right? And the amount of, think about it, the amount of data, you'd be on a constant phone call basically to Zuck. It would eat up your network like crazy. And then the fraction of the times versus you just like going to fucking kayak and like entering Boston and using that data. And so I'm not saying it's technically impossible, and in some future world, who knows? But it would be difficult. And even if you manage to do it, there isn't. One of the chapters of my book, I understand you're listening to, I have a chapter called The Narcissism of Privacy, which comes off maybe more snarky than I mean, but privacy is a right and people have a right to it, obviously. But I think one of the sort of misleading things when you think about companies like Facebook is that like Facebook wants to know the thing that you least want them to know, which is like your personal conversation with your loved one or whatever. When it comes to commercial data that actually helps target ads, there's very little of what you do, or things that you wouldn't think of are what they want, not necessarily what you would not want Facebook to know.
Right, but what concerns people is the idea that your microphone is picking up keywords that they have accounts with. So whether it's cell phones, tires, whatever it is, and then you see an ad for it.
It would be more possible in like the smart speaker systems you have at home, for example.
Right.
That probably wouldn't be so hard to do.
Stuff like that.
That probably wouldn't be so hard to do.
That makes sense. And so how would they target you for an ad with that?
Well, again, if you said something well-structured, that would be easy to tease out.
And if that's connected to the same account that's connected to your Gmail or your Google search.
Or Amazon.
Or Amazon, then they would show you the ads.
Yeah. So like a lot of what happens that's actual targeting is like data joining. So like getting back to the Cabela's example, like I understand you're into hunting, so maybe you shop at the local Cabela's or the Bass Pro Shop. they'll have your phone number and email for all the shit you buy online. And what they want to do is like find you online and sell you because it's the fucking deer hunting season sale or whatever. And they try to, and so what they'll do is they'll upload that list of emails to Facebook and say, oh, this is the deer hunting group. And then they'll show you ads based on your actual buying history. So that sort of thing absolutely does happen. Yes.
That makes sense.
Yeah, that absolutely
That completely makes sense.
Yeah.
So that's the creepy. So
that's the
it
creepy.
went from
yeah.
crappy to creepy.
creepy. Yeah.
That's creepy.
And it pays for the internet. That if there's any saving grace to this, is that it pays for the services that most people wouldn't be willing to pay for otherwise, or wouldn't exist otherwise, for better or worse.
Interesting is that it became one of the most valuable commodities in the world, and people just sort of gave up access to it because they didn't understand it was valuable when it first started being implemented. When people first started using Gmail, or they first started, searching for things on Google or using Facebook, they never thought that they were giving up access to something that's insanely valuable that would create not just some of the biggest companies in the world like Facebook and Apple and Google, but also some of the most influential companies that have ever existed.
That's right.
There's never been a company that has the kind of input on social policies or on the way the world functions like Facebook. Has there ever been a single individual company that has the kind of
to put on my Facebook hat
influence?
A little bit. I mean, if you go back to the world of Walter Cronkite and like 3 TV networks and creating consensus around things like Vietnam or other events, I think there's precedence. It may not have been within one software company in the sort of way that you were talking about, but was there a media establishment that manufactured consent around certain social issues? I would say yes.
Yeah, that's true. But I think the difference is that they were in some way, shape, or form connected to the government. And we don't think that Facebook is. But maybe they are.
Well, they respond to like warrants and stuff when it comes to policing online behavior. And I get into that a little bit in the book. They definitely, they do a lot of good protecting like child molesters and stuff and taking them off of Facebook.
And also, I think people have to understand the sheer volume of stuff that goes onto their network every day, right? So it's managing its scale.
Exactly, John. You're obviously a very bright guy who's been very thoughtful about this. But one of the things that's hardest to convey to people who are on the outside looking in is like you open any dashboard at a company like that and every number is in the billions, like billions of posts, billions of people, billions of photos. Like even if they were trying to be like best effort, it would be very difficult to police a lot of what people want them to police.
Like we looked up the data on YouTube about the amount of data, amount of videos that get uploaded to YouTube.
Oh, did you? Okay.
Daily. And it's astounding.
Right.
I forget what the number is, but let's see what it is. Find out what it is daily. But it's one of those things where you go, okay, how would you manage that? How many people would you have to hire to watch that? How many people would you have to hire to watch every video that's being uploaded on YouTube every day? You would have to have millions and millions of